This is Tom Kramer, and I'm the principal at Centerville Elementary, and I'd like to welcome you to the first ever edition of the Centerville Elementary Podcast.
Something new to Hempfield is going on at the Centerville Elementary School. A podcast is being piloted to provide parents with a better way to stay connected to the school and its various events.
Centerville is the first of Hempfield's elementary schools to experiment with a monthly podcast. The podcast itself was the idea of Mr. Tom Kramer, the principal of Centerville Elementary School, and he claims that communicating with parents is the primary reason why he decided to create the podcast.
My goal is that parents are more informed about what's happening, because sometimes things don't get home in backpacks and in emails get deleted, so this is a great way to just have another way out there to provide parents with info.
In order to make the podcast a reality, Mr. Kramer collaborated with Hempfield's Director of Communications, Mrs. Shannon Zimmerman.
When Mr. Kramer came to me and asked me about podcasting for his building at Centerville Elementary School, we needed to consider, was this something that would be used by our audiences? And so we had great discussions about it before we launched into that.
Mr. Kramer admits that while the podcast is solely an experiment at this point, he believes that a podcast could be integrated into other schools in the future.
I think that's part of why we're piloting it this year, to see what could happen. I mean, if it ends up being something that's really cumbersome, adding on something else to do during the day can be a little tough, but I think it's something that if we find is relevant and parents are actually using it, I think it's something that if it's easy enough to do, that yeah, absolutely we could utilize it elsewhere.
Podcasts are proving to be a new and effective way for parents to stay informed about what is going on in their children's schools.
The podcast can be found on Hempfield School District's YouTube page or on iTunes.
For Hempfield Happenings, I'm Casey Kreider.